Hello, my name is Hans Lederhuber. I'm a general surgeon, currently based in Germany, south of Munich. I have a particular interest in colorectal surgery and complex abdominal wall repair. And I'm one of the three current editor assistants at the BJS Open. I did my training for the most of it in Sweden until 2018. Moved quickly back to Germany for a couple of years, then to the UK, where I worked for Professor Niels Smart at the Exeter Hospital, and then moved back to Germany in 2022-ish, if my mind doesn't fail me too much. And exactly, that's where I'm currently, and picked up my consultant post last October. So to start even earlier, I worked for private company when I was still studying in Vienna as a research assistant for 3 years, which is an add-on in terms of editorial work whenever it comes to more basic research. This is what I did back then. I have a strong focus on collaborative research and registry research, which is something that I could take with me from Sweden, which has a very strong history of running registries, which is really helping at the moment. Same for the collaborative studies, which is something that is more and more of interest to the surgical community at the moment. All of that picked up during the pandemic, or at the very beginning of the pandemic, when Anil Bangu from Birmingham and a couple of other surgeons connected via Twitter, now X, and decided to do something, and that is all on the back of the Global Search Research Collaborative. All of that is pretty helpful just in being connected to other surgeons, of knowing or having an extensive research network, and also understanding this type of collaborative research, how that is run, and the particular problems and benefits that come with it. And lastly, the time in Exeter with Professor Smart, who is one of the outstanding and most famous surgeons, I would say, at the moment in the UK, particularly for his work on peritoneal hernia, helped me very much to dig even deeper into parts of the editorial process already, understanding more of the complexities of running trials, what to look for if you're assessing trials, and that helped me a lot in applying for the BJS bursary, but also now in the reviewing process and in the understanding of which papers come in. So what I got out of the research or the editor assistant bursary so far, which is just a little over half a year into it, is number one, really like understanding the editorial process more than you can understand it when you read on a paper or hear during a presentation what it's all about, because very much is, of course, the day-to-day work of the editors, where they handle the papers, but huge amount of work is also done during the editor meetings, where you have those lively discussions about papers that are for discussion, that could be published or could not, where you discuss the way forward, where are we heading in the next couple of years, maybe even next decade. So all of that is something that you can't transport. This kind of discussion, this kind of in-depth insight is nothing you can grasp from a PowerPoint presentation or from reading an article about what an editor does. So that is very helpful. Then, of course, the whole networking. I mean, you hear about all those pretty famous surgeons a lot, and then sitting with them at the same table, talking to them directly, networking, that's really giving you the impression of standing on the shoulders of giants, because you suddenly are amongst them. And that is also something that is really like astonishing, because you're not like an observer from the outside, or someone who's just like coming as a student. You're immediately part of the team, so they're explaining a lot. They're encouraging you to do projects. They're are interested in your ideas and what you can bring to the team. So this is a very interactive relationship, and it's not an outsider observer post. It's really, if you want it to be, a very interactive process. As I already mentioned, it's really the in-depth, and or the in-depth is maybe a little bit exaggerated, because I don't assume I have already an in-depth impression, but like scratching the surface of what the whole process and the dynamics of this team are. And I found it very impressive how you can really dig into the science, and suddenly seeing the big perspective of what are they discussing, where the journals are heading. It's not so niche, looking at particular papers only, but really having an overview over the editorial landscape, if so to say, and that is really, really rewarding. And then, of course, you have those editorial meetings face to face, which is just fantastic. And I would lie if I said it's not cool to fly into a major city in Europe and meet the team, and that is just something special that also brings, of course, to the whole experience. That was maybe a little bit gone after the pandemic. Now back into the traveling, and the face-to-face interaction is fantastic. It's really, and it's such a good bunch of people. I think it's amazing. So my main message, if you wanted to become an editor assistant for the BJS or BJS Open, is to think well what you could bring to the post, what could be of interest to the editorial team. Be maybe brave enough to state something that is a little bit more extraordinary in terms of interesting, because the numbers of applicants is high, so everything that stands out catches interest, I would guess. And what I said, I had applied, I think, 3 times. This was my 4th time. I think be persistent. If you want something, and if you want the bursary, just give it another go. Maybe not every year. Try to improve your CV on points that are helpful, like I don't know, involving yourself into some research that could be beneficial in an editorial role as well. I mean, the understanding of that, publishing something of interest for the journal, just to make them aware of that you have those skills. Make yourself interesting and be persistent in applying again if you fail, because from what I understand, as I said, the field of applicants is quite large, and the applicants are all, well, most of them are excellent. So if you read the names that didn't get an application, weren't applied, those people are still fantastic. So I think it's sometimes even luck that makes you become an editor assistant or not, because at some point the editors have to decide, and it's just marginal, the differences. I think just try again. My interest was sparked by exactly this imagination I had about, like, for one thing, really understanding the editorial process from within, and that is, as I said, very much beyond what everybody more or less knows about the editorial process. How are the discussions going face to face? How are decisions made when the editors are discussing certain topics? And that is really what interested me to exactly understand what are they doing, why are they deciding to do X and not Y, and then also to a certain degree improve myself as a scientist, because you get a completely new perspective if you understand the editor's view, and that is not to please the editors or to do something because the editors wanted to do, rather than that the editor's job is to pick out which papers are interesting and to make them even more interesting. They're very helpful in improving the articles they review and really making it into something that is interesting to a broader readership. So this is also helpful from an author standpoint point of view, because you know exactly what you could do to make your science even more easy to read, and that is what it should be about. It's not just about our research, it's about the readership. Personal knowledge about all those processes, and of course the assistant bursary comes to an end of June, so of course it would be nice to be still attached to the BJS, but even if that was not the case, I would still have learned so much about the whole process, which I think really helps me as an author in the future, has at least changed my view on certain topics when submitting a paper, things that are just not good or not good enough if you submit a paper. And then, of course, you have personal contacts to people like the other editor assistants. There are really some bonds that have already formed, and that for sure have already 2, 3, 4 people there whom I would call my friends now. So this is also something on a personal level that is just nice to meet those people, and this is something that you never can take from me again. Career impact is quite obvious, because like being an editor assistant is something that you can put on your CV, and this is for one of the leading surgical journals worldwide. So the impact of that is for anybody who is somehow oriented in the surgical sphere. I guess a massive massive thing if you can state like I have worked with all those famous persons on the BJS as an editor assistant. Um, it's not that I really feel this impact right now directly after just a couple of months, but it's really something that it gives your pushes your CV. And then of course, as I already mentioned, like the impact on your personal development as a person as well. If you're seen as a professional and you have a feeling my opinion is valued, that gives you a boost that is second to none. And I guess that is an impact that is much beyond the impact on your curriculum. So I think the CV, the personal development, and the professional development, the things you learn, all of that pushes your career into directions that I can't see yet where that takes me, but I have no doubt it will.